What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Before we start today, I want to let you guys know I'm going to start doing some streaming on Twitch as well. Probably have a full schedule for that, so make sure you follow me on Twitter so you can see where the schedule is, and I'll let you guys know. Probably starting Monday, I'll let you guys know the schedule next week, but it's probably going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just got to figure out a time during those days. I'll probably stream an hour or two a day. I'll figure all of that out when we get that all worked out, but the Twitch will be down in the description if you want to check that out. It's just SpawnWave. You should be able to find it on there. If you want to watch me do some streaming and stuff, we can have some fun, interact. Could be a good time. I just want to do some stuff on Twitch as well, so I'll let you guys know now, but I'll keep you guys informed about that schedule. But we have some fun stuff to talk about today. I really want to get into this article that Jason Schreier wrote over on Kotaku. Great article, by the way, talking about Anthem being under some serious pressure. It might even be their last chance at a game. It's very interesting to go through. And of course, Media Create sales charts. And then we also have to talk about a massive swing at GDC for the Nintendo Switch. If you remember those charts from last year, look a little different this year. Let's get started. So we're going to start today with Media Create sales charts. Of course, these are sales charts in Japan from the week prior. So this will be for last week's sales charts. Not quite to Monster Hunter, of course. That'll be next week. We'll get to that in a second. But we have to talk about this because Mario Rabbids actually launched, and there is a bit of a disparity between the Media Create sales charts and the Famitsu sales charts, and that's because there were download cards that were sold pretty well, apparently. Apparently they sold pretty well, to the point where there's a 20,000 unit disparity. I'm going to give you the Famitsu number because I think that tends to be a little closer when we come to these digital games. So here we go. Media Create, though, at the top, you'll see a 66,692 for Mario Rabbids. It topped the sales charts either way. If you look at Famitsu's that includes those download codes, it's 86,956. The number 2, Gintama Rambo, that was 38,443. That's on the PS4 from Bandai Namco Games. Splatoon 2 at number 3. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, number 4. That game's never going away. It's always going to be up there. By the way, look at that Splatoon 2. Very close to 2 million units. Like I told you guys, probably a week or two from now, it should cross that 2 million mark. Big deal for Splatoon 2 there. Below that is the PS Vita version of Gintama Rambo. Dissidia Final Fantasy NT drops all the way down to number 6 from the number 1 spot last week. Super Mario Odyssey chimes in here at number 7. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon together, number 8. Mario Party top 100 for the 3DS, number 9. And then below that, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 10. The Street Fighter V Arcade Edition did also debut this week. That fell all the way to number 12, though, at 7,908. That's why it's not in the top 10 here. Let's jump over to the systems very quickly. The PS4 at the top, that includes all systems, so PS4 and PS4 Pro, 50,507, up about 9,000 units from last week's 43,000. Nintendo Switch below that, 43,027. That's actually up 5,500 or so from the week prior. 3DS, 12,115. That's actually down a bit. PlayStation Vita is actually down about 100 units, down to 4,256. And the Xbox One, this is very interesting too. We're going to get into this in a second. The Xbox One was at 1,388. And I feel like these numbers seem a little off because the Xbox One X, according to Media Create's charts, was 1,285 and the Xbox One regular was 103. I almost feel like those are flipped around, but that's what they reported here. And the reason it's so weird to me is the Xbox One X was up from 6 Xbox One X's the week prior. Now, even Famitsu reported a much higher Xbox One X sell-through than the week prior, and it does look like it's that same type of split. It's just Media Create's somehow caught an extra, I don't know, 700 Xbox One X's. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I think this might have something to do with Monster Hunter coming out next week. I think that's why the PS4 numbers are up, and even the Xbox numbers. This is coming out on the Xbox as well, and there are people who probably want something like the Xbox One X. Not as many, obviously, as a lot of people are buying the PS4 compared to the Xbox, but still, you're gonna see a boost in sales no matter what because Monster Hunter is on both systems. Now, next week is where things are going to get very interesting, and place your bets now for how many Monster Hunters are going to sell next week together, combined. Xbox, PS4, of course, majority of them are going to sell on the PS4 since there's not even 100,000 Xbox Ones in that country. So yeah, look for the PS4 number to be large. People are kind of chiming in with analysts saying at least 1 million due to the pre-orders that have been kind of collected, the pre-order data. 1 million might be, that's going to be close. Now listen, before Monster Hunter Generations sold over 1 million, like 1.5, I think, million, whereas Monster Hunter Double Cross on 3DS dropped below 1 million. Of course, Double Cross is almost like the definitive edition of Generations. I always get confused with some of these Monster Hunter games, but basically it wasn't as hyped up, whereas Monster Hunter World, massively hyped up. I think we're going to see a big number next week. I think the PS4 system will also go over 100,000 units on its own, but Monster Hunter is going to keep the PS4 and even the Xbox slightly relevant, but it's going to keep the PS4 relevant for a couple weeks at least as people go out, buy Monster Hunter. It's a big event in Japan when this happens, so look for a big number. And you know what's going to be exciting? Pretty much everywhere. I know in the US it's going to be very exciting when that comes out. I'm actually going to pick it up. I've never really gotten into Monster Hunter. I'm going to take a shot now. So I'm excited to try it out myself. That is the same day here as Dragon Ball FighterZ. Also, just so you know, in Japan, they pushed that back a week. Some people were letting me know, oh, it's coming out the same week. In Japan, it's actually a week later. But we'll at least have data on Monster Hunter releasing in Japan next week. Next up, let's jump over to GDC. Now, we've seen this before. We saw this last year before the Switch came out. GDC, of course, is the Game Developers Conference where they all kind of get together, talk about different strategies, techniques they're using with developing their games, and sometimes some people who are pitching will pitch some of their indie games to bigger developers and try to get a job or just get their game published or made by a team. In this case, though, they do poll a lot of the people going there developing, and the Switch, if you remember last year, had a very low amount come in. Remember, it was like 3% and 5% as being people who were actually working on games, people who were planning to work on games. Remember, that was a big sticking point for a lot of people. Something that was brought up by a lot of people who didn't like the Switch, didn't want the Switch to do well. Well, if you're going to look at it last year, we might as well look at it this year and see what's happened, because you wouldn't expect it to grow a ton, would you? Well, it looks like that's actually what happened. Here's the charts here. Now this year, 12% of the respondents to this survey, they're working on a game for the platform, that's Nintendo Switch, up 3% from last year. 15% are planning to make their next game available on the Switch, up from 5% last year, and 36% of developers listed it as among the platform they're most interested in. This is a very large swing. VR actually fell a bit, and it looks like loot crates are also going to stick around, as about 11% of people who are developing games plan to include them in their game. So it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere, but VR and augmented reality took a bit of a hit this past year from the GDC, or at least the Game Developers Conference attendees that participated in this poll. The big thing here, though, to look at is the big swing from the Switch. You know why that happened? Sales. We've talked about it before. If the system has a larger install base, people are going to go to it. Now, of course, most of them are developing for the PC and the PS4 currently. That's because that's where the install base is. But it's very clear with the way the Switch is, where it seems to be relatively easy to develop for. It's a known architecture. It's not like what the Wii U was, right? And the install base is growing rapidly. We're going to see what number Nintendo's going to throw out at us at the end of this month, and that's really going to affect them, because as far as we know right now, the official number that they've told us, this was in December, was 10 million. So I have a feeling they're kind of going from that official statement. But when Nintendo reports later on this month, we could see a pretty big jump in interest from developers, just because Nintendo's going to come out with a number that some analysts are saying could be 16 million plus. So it's going to be fun to see what we get here at the end of the month. And I would expect next year's GDC to get really more people on board, more people interested. And we probably will eventually get to that point where it's like 36, 37, even 40% are saying, yeah, we're developing for the Switch, kind of like we are for the PS4. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft's personal assistant that they have developed for their mobile app. Now, it sounds weird because it kind of is. I don't really know how necessary personal assistants are. I know a lot of people use Alexa for Amazon and their Amazon Echo, or Siri, or even Google now. But Ubisoft decided to make one for their Ubisoft companion app on their cell phones, and it's named Sam. And the idea here is, well, it operates very similar to something like Siri, except it's all about Ubisoft's games. So if you say, hey, when does Assassin's Creed Origins come out, for example, not only will it tell you when it comes out, it'll present this nice buy it page, this big purchase page that says buy it now right in the middle. One of the cool things, though, I will say this, okay? One of the cool things about this is if you play a game like, all right, they have Rainbow Six, right? Rainbow Six Siege is competitive. As it was reported by Eurogamer, you can actually have them help you out after you finish a match. So let's say you finish up a game of Rainbow Six Siege, you don't do well, your KD is pretty well in the negatives, and you're feeling kind of down. Well, what'll happen is the personal assistant Sam will help you out. They will tell you basically what your score was, and they'll give you a bunch of YouTube videos to try to help you out. Maybe you were really bad as a support player. Maybe you're really bad at sniping because your accuracy was terrible with sniper rifle. They'll present you with tutorials on how to be better with that sniper rifle. So you can get a personal assistant on your cell phone that tells you you're bad and then I guess tries to help you. So it's kind of a neat idea. Currently they're doing a beta on it in Canada only, I guess because they want a very controlled audience. They don't want to put it to everyone and be like, hey, hopefully everything works. Nah, keep a small control group and try to work within that group. So will it actually have any mainstream appeal? Probably not. It'll probably be something you just use on the companion app now and then. I like the idea though of it trying to help you get better at the game. I just don't know how many people are actually going to sit down and be like, all right, let's go ask Sam how to run this level better in Assassin's Creed or whatever. I just don't think it'll be there. I think it'll just be something that we kind of forget about over time. All right, let's talk about Anthem. We talked a bit about EA's business practices in the past with loot boxes, and for the most part, they have a pretty bad image with gaming currently, right? We saw what happened in Battlefront 2. That was something else. We've never seen that before in gaming, and well, the backlash is real because the game is certainly not selling as they would like it to. Destiny 2 is another really good example of what happens if you don't treat your fan base well and deliver a game that is good, because the player base for that has been shrinking ever since, and all they ever seem to do is apologize for trying to get more money out of you by making the game essentially gimped. So they're kind of looking at this, and apparently it appears to be BioWare's last chance, or at least that's the feeling internally right now. We saw what happened with Mass Effect, where an entire studio for BioWare was kind of dissolved and absorbed by EA, and now here we are with BioWare. They're apparently also working on a Dragon Age game, but the big emphasis right now is on Anthem. So Jason Schreier wrote this very well done article. I recommend going and check it out. Of course, the link is down in the description underneath the sources, so go check that out, have a read. I'm going to go over some of the parts with it that were very interesting to me. The big one was, it seemed that BioWare, after BioWare Montreal was kind of absorbed into EA after Mass Effect Andromeda just bombed and had a terrible debut, glitches, bugs, everything. It kind of set the standard here, because now BioWare seems a little concerned internally, and from what Jason has been able to research and figure out by going to internal sources here at BioWare, Anthem is like their last chance, it feels like, to them, and they appear to be very worried. And I'm going to tell you why. The biggest thing that they seem to cite here are bigger YouTubers. They are citing bigger YouTubers kind of, well, talking about, and even say spreading misinformation about EA in general, and of course that trickles down to them, whether you like it or not. It just does, because if you go after EA for something like, say, Battlefront, who else was affected when you attacked Battlefront 2? Well, I mean, DICE was affected. Sure, EA was the one calling the shots. EA's the one we're kind of mad at, but DICE was the one who developed their game, and it's not selling as well, right? And that's kind of an issue. Now, we can pretty much attribute that to the greed and the loot boxes, but when people, like they say, bigger YouTubers, and we know who they're talking about, kind of goes after every little thing like they say, it actually affects the people on the ground level more than it does EA. In fact, EA can just dissolve BioWare when this is all done, and they'll just move on. But the people from BioWare will lose their jobs, they have to go find a new studio to work at, and it more so affects them than the CEO at the top making millions of dollars, right? Like, we're to the point now where BioWare were considering stopping development altogether on the Star Wars The Old Republic online game and move people from there to Anthem, because it is that big of a deal. Originally it was supposed to be coming out in holiday 2018. Apparently it's being moved to early 2019, and it won't be able to get out any later than March, because that's, of course, it falls in line with EA's fiscal year, and that's how they kind of call the shots. So this is almost make or break, is the feeling right now internally on Anthem, and it is a little concerning. Anthem looks cool, but would you hang your hat? Would you bet the farm on it? I don't know. And what happens if EA tells them, you gotta work monetization strategies into this, you're gonna make the players mad, but we need it to work, and we need it to be able to pull in microtransactions with loot boxes or something, dynamic difficulty. You know, there's a lot of stuff they could do. And when it comes uncovered, people are going to yell at them, and then EA's going to be like, you should have disguised it more, right? That seems to be the worry, and that seems to be the concern with people internally. They're building the game, but they can't help it if loot boxes have to be in there, and they can't help it if YouTubers come after them for it. Also, very quickly, Sega has actually pulled back the pricing on Supersonic, on Sonic Forces, just in case you're one of the people who are a little annoyed, a little concerned about that. They put out a tweet. Originally, it was going to be free up until January 23rd, so 2 days ago. They actually rescinded the $1.99 charge for Supersonic after that time. He is just free for good. So if you have Sonic Forces, you can still download it. Maybe you bought it today and you're like, I gotta pay $2 for Supersonic. No, you can just go download it. This, of course, comes after the backlash from fans when Supersonic was a paid item, which makes no sense because Supersonic should, of course, be in the Sonic games. Well, he is now. He's free. You can download him. If you go on the shop, it may still say $1.99. Underneath of that, it should say free. Download the free one. Don't pay for $1.99 for it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. You guys have been liking the videos a lot, and it's really been helping. I think the last video got 1,500 likes. It was very cool to see that, so I really appreciate it. Let me know about any of the stuff we talked about today. Leave a bunch of comments down below about Media Create sales charts. Maybe you're expecting Monster Hunter to blow the roof off the charts. It's going to be very interesting to see how it does in the first 2 days, because that's a Friday and a Saturday that Media Creates and Famitsu will track. And people are saying it could be 1 million. That would be pretty big for Monster Hunter. That'd be big for a 6 million user install base in Japan, considering the 3DS generally had like over 15 million at the time when Monster Hunter Generations came out and made that really big push with 1.5 million on day 1 or 2. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know what you guys think about the sales down below, and let me know what you think about Anthem. Do you think this is going to be great for BioWare? Do you think it's going to come out and be amazing sales-wise? Do you think it's going to have a very good reception? Or do you think at this point, BioWare is fighting a losing battle and they could be in some trouble because, well, we see what happens when EA doesn't like a studio or a game doesn't work out. They have no problem just destroying the studio. Let me know what you guys think about that, though. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.